सकल सहने बोलो दिया करो निज मने स्पृहाहीना। सकले सम्मान करिते शकति सकले देहनाथ जत जता। तबे तो गाइबो हरि नाम सुखे अपराध हबे हत गुरुदेव अपराध। कबे हेन कृपा लोभियाए जन कृतार्थ हईबे नाथा। शक्ति बुद्धिहीना आमी अति दीना करम रे आत्मसात। शक्ति बुद्धिहीना आमी अति दीना करम रे आत्मसात। योग्यता विचारे किछु नहीं पाए योग्यता विचारे किछु नहीं पाए। तुम्हारा करुणा सारा तुम्हारा करुणा सारा। करुणा ना हईले कांदिया कांदिया करुणा ना हईले कांदिया कांदिया प्राण ना राखिब आर गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणे परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class. Chapter entitled Rahugana Converses with Jada Bharata, Canto 5, Chapter 13. We'll be reading from text 3. Prabhūta-vīrut-tṛṇa-gulma-gahvare kaṭhora-daṁśair maśakair upadrutaḥ kvacit gandharva-puram prapaśyati kvacit cāśu-rayolmuka-graham prabhūta-vīrut-tṛṇa-gulma-gahvare kaṭhora-daṁśair maśakair upadrutaḥ kvacit gandharva-puram prapaśyati kvacit cāśu-rayolmuka-graham prabhūta-vīrut-tṛṇa-gulma-gahvare kaṭhora-daṁśair maśakair upadrutaḥ kvacit gandharva-puram prapaśyati kvacit cāśu-rayolmuka-graham. Gahvare kaṭhora-daṁśair maśakair upadrutaḥ Vaishnavis, mothers? Okay, thank you. Word by word synonyms, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness and the preeminent Shiksha Guru for all of us. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Prabhuta, a very large number, Viruta, of creepers, Trina, of varieties of grass, Gulma, of thickets, Gahvare, in bowers, Kaṭhora, cruel, Daṁśaiḥ, by bites, maśakair, by mosquitoes. Upadrutaḥ, disturbed. Kvacit, sometimes. To, but. Gandharva-puram, a false palace created by the Gandharvas. Prapaśyati, he sees. Kvacit, and sometimes. Kvacit, sometimes. Cha, and. Āśu-raya, very quickly. Ulmuka, like a meteor. Graham, a fiend or a fiend. It's pronounced both ways, a fiend. Translation, kindly repeat after me. In this forest, there are dense burs composed of thickets of bushes, grass, and creepers. In these burs, the conditioned soul is always disturbed by cruelly biting mosquitoes, which means envious people. Sometimes he sees an imaginary palace in the forest, and sometimes he is bewildered by seeing a fleeting fiend or ghost which appears like a meteor in the sky. Kindly listen intently to these purports by His Divine Grace. The material household is actually a whole of fruitive activity. To earn a livelihood, one engages in different industries and trades. Sometimes one performs great sacrifices to go to higher planetary systems. Apart from this, at least everyone is engaged in earning a livelihood in some profession or occupation. In these dealings, one has to meet many undesirable people, and their behavior is compared to the biting of mosquitoes. Thank you. This creates very undesirable conditions. Even in the midst of these disturbances, one imagines that he is going to construct a grand house and live there permanently, although he knows that he cannot. Gold is compared to a quickly fleeting find, which appears like a meteor in the sky. It displays itself for a moment and is then gone. Generally, karmis are attracted to gold or money, but these are compared herein to ghosts and witches. Now you see, now you don't. Hare Krishna. Before I commence, I seek the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas here and all the assembled Vaishnavas, that I may present these glorious, pure topics of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which are way beyond my qualification, for your pleasure and my purification. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So let's take a few lines of the purport one by one, and then we could probably go to a different kind of discussion. The first line itself, before we go to the first line, the translation, let's go to the translation. In this forest, there are dense burs. Forest, we talk about the forest of material existence. We also talk about the forest fire of material enjoyment, but here we talk about the bhava atavi. Atavi means forest, bhava means, like Kunti Marani prays, apunar bhava darshanam, material samsara, existence, repeated birth and death. So, the description is that of a typical living entity, which is, who's compared to a merchant, a conditioned soul, basically. And we must understand that the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, while it glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every page, it also sets glorious examples for us as conditioned souls to progress on the path of spirituality by anukulasya sankalpam and pratikulasya varjanam, by following the path of those glorious Vaishnavas who set an example for us, and by eschewing or avoiding or preempting the path that is followed by those who are anadruta yushmatangrayaha, or basically those who have gone against the path of Krishna consciousness, or for some reason have fallen away from the path of Krishna consciousness because they were not following the principles of Krishna consciousness as it is outlined by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is gloriously mentioned as a prayer book because it's full of so many prayers. Prayers of Queen Kunti, prayers of Bhishmadev, and there are so many prayers. Prayers of Vritrasura, prayers of Gajendra, prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, prayers of Dhruva Maharaj, prayers of the Prachetas. It's unending. At the same time, it is also a manual of Vaishnava etiquette. Of course, it is explained in far greater detail by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the PhD study of Krishna consciousness, which is Caitanya-caritāmṛta. But in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is considered the postgraduate study, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned it various times, there is substantial evidence in terms of what to do and what not to do. So, Kinkara, the word Kinkara is essentially, it means servant. Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram. Kinkara means, in one sense, he knows what to do and what not to do. Kim karoti, kim na karoti. What to do, what not to do. Iti Kinkara. Such a person is Kinkara. So, by setting a model for us in behavior, dealings, relationships, and in the general standard of living, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam establishes itself as the true substitute, so to say, not that the other person is totally removed, but when it is mentioned that Krishna Swadhamopagata, when Krishna has left for the spiritual abode, his own spiritual abode, although he is present everywhere, Andandarastha, Paramanuchayantarastham, for the establishment of dharma, he left behind Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam through the medium of, which was revealed through the medium of Parishit Maharaj and Srila Shukadeva Goswami. And therefore, it tells us the path of dharma. And Bhagavad Gita, right in the beginning, when Arjuna requests the Supreme Lord, Prichami Tvam Dharma Sammudha Cheta. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is also meant for a civilization that is bereft of God consciousness. Like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, everything is present in the world around us. All that is missing is God consciousness or Krishna consciousness. So, in a generation and a culture and a society that is bereft of Krishna consciousness, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam shines forth like the sun. Adityanam Aham Vishnu, Krishna says. One Aditya is, Aditi's sons are all called Adityas. So, Surya is also an Aditya. So, the Bhagavatam therefore represents that. And in the Bhagavatam, in this particular purport, for example, let's take a few words. It just says, dense bowers, gahvara. Gahvara means a cave or a bower. It's like a ditch or a cave. If we are getting stuck in this bowers of material existence, there is only one way that we can get out of it. Because we are stuck in these bowers of material existence because in our heart there is a bower, there is a cave, there is a kandara, there is a gahvara. That is why we pray anarpita charim chirat karunayat avatirna kalo samarpayatum unnatojjvala rasam swabhakti shriyam haripurata sundara dvitikatamba sandipita sada hridaya kandare spurutava sachinandana. You pray to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to please illumine yourself with His glorious effulgence and be present in our heart, our cave-like heart. It is so dark. Achaitanyam idam vishwam yadi chaitanyam ishwaram. Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur says, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai. And in this world which is bereft of luminance and effulgence, without any light, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. And that is why in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in the first few pages, Srila Prabhupada presents in the very first canto the glorious life of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Radha Pasa, the Gaurnata, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki. So therefore we should pray to the Supreme Lord because that our heart is so dark and empty and hollow We pray to the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Sri Krishna, to be present in our heart. And that will definitely shine in this material forest, which is dense and dark. Sometimes we see that the trees, the thickets, the bushes which are being talked about, they are all so thick that it is so dark inside. The sunlight just wouldn't reach. It's so dark. That's the denseness of material existence, that we cannot see light at the end of the tunnel, as they say. We cannot see spiritual knowledge. And therefore, to get through this dense, dark forest of illusion, yathate moha kalilam, also Krishna says, when we are disturbed and completely disillusioned and distracted by this dense forest of delusion, who helps us? The guide is called Guru. And that spiritual master, that is why we pray to him, Om Ajnanatimira. It is so dark in here, in this forest. And it is mentioned that a manager is one who cuts through all the thick bushes in a forest. But a leader is one who climbs on the tallest tree and looks far ahead as to what is the way out. So spiritual master is someone who has seen that. The Hindi translation for a transparent vaya medium is Paradarshi Madhyam. Paradarshi could also mean Duradarshi, one who can see way beyond. Paradarshi means one who can see through, which is transparent. And by his transparent dealings, the spiritual master sees us get out of this forest of material delusion. So therefore, I thought that I will start today's lecture by glorifying the spiritual master, because he is the one who has opened the path for us through this dense forest of delusion. Getting further into the purport, it is mentioned that the conditioned soul is always disturbed by cruelly biting mosquitoes, which is reflected by envious people. It is mentioned that in the Kshira Sagara Manthana, when Lord Shiva saw that the halahala visha had fallen into the ocean, and he partook of it, some drops fell down, and poisonous entities were effectively born from that. That includes snakes, scorpions, centipedes, etc. But it is elsewhere mentioned that these mosquitoes are also no different. They are blood-sucking. And it is excellent that they are using the word envious. Envious people are blood-sucking. It is even mentioned that the disciple who is just a guru bhogi, who partakes of the facilities of the spiritual master without serving him and the movement, is also like a mosquito who doesn't take the association of the great king or the great personality, but simply sits on that person's body and sucks his blood. So these are all envious people. The greatest envy that one can find in the material world. What is the greatest envy? Who can say? Yes, Vijayanagari. Sorry? Which is the greatest envy that you can find in the material? I thought you had the answer. Yes, Pandav Prem Prabhu. Envy against Krishna, because that's why we're here. We came here because we were envious of Krishna. And that reflects further in terms of envy of Krishna's bona fide representative also. So these are ways with which we are making the forest thicker and thicker. We are watering these thickets and bushes in such a way because of our enviousness. So there, of course, enviousness also is in the form of those who are envious of Krishna consciousness in general. People who obstruct, people who are atheists, pashandis. These are envious. That means violence. And the way to overcome violence, as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, is to preach. Violence in us, envy in us, and violence in others, envy in others. Preach by precepts, preach by example, preach by the teachings of the Guru. Whatever method and means that we have available, which is bona fide through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, we should use to address the envy first in ourselves, janma shartaka kari koro paropakar, and then preach to others and make them free of envy. One simple way to overcome envy is to glorify. There is a usage in behavioral psychology called catch people doing the right things. To catch people doing the right things. So it's natural for us to find faults in people because like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that when faults in others bother you, relax, look within. Understand that nobody can affect you as much as you can and your thoughts. So, like the bull of Dharma mentions the same thing. Yesterday I was talking to, I think, Rasrajpur, the same thing. That the bull of Dharma says that if somebody blames someone as the cause of his misery, then he is also party to that misery, party to that karma. And His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj mentions in one of his lectures about, I think, Rukmini Parinaya, Rukmini Swayamvara, that part, that he says that a Brahmana is characterized by peacefulness of mind and one who doesn't complain. Brahmana is one who doesn't complain. So when we see situations around us that disturb us, even in the material existence, adversity, difficult people who don't respect us, that is one thing. But people who deliberately insult us, that is also a condition that the conditioned soul has to face. These are some of the conditions of material existence. Being conditioned by the conditions of material existence. And that involves many, many envious people. People who may not recognize our achievements. People who, even if they recognize their achievements, may speak against us. And it is envy in our heart which makes us think that they are responsible for my misery. Nayam janome sukha dukkha hetu, like the Avanti Brahmana says. These people are neither responsible for my happiness or my distress. Na devadatma graha karma kala. Here it's mentioned graha. Kvacic āśu-rayolmuka-graham. Ulmuka-graham. It's like a meteor. There are tridashapura akasha pushpayate. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur talks about how it is a palace in the sky and there is a Tridashapura, Akasha Pushpayate. Here it is Gandharva-pura that is mentioned. Phantasmagoria, Prabhupada talks about that word. This is, now you see it, now you don't. You think it is there, but it is not there. Another example that is used is the Marichika or the mirage. The nature of the material world is like that. We see pleasure here, but it is not pleasure. It is like Duryodhana walking in Mayadanava's palace constructed in Indraprastha. Where you think there is water, there is no water. Where you don't think there is water, there is water. Padam padam yadvipadam. That's the nature. So that's why I remember the old ISKCON Youth Forum line, matter does not matter. It's very important for us to understand that. Srila Burjan Prabhu mentions that unless one is convinced that sense gratification equal to misery, this is the equation. Sense gratification equal to misery. Yehi samsparshajab hoga dukha yonaya evate. Adyantavantu kaunte anateshu ramate buddha. The intelligent person does not partake of them. The wise man doesn't partake of them because he knows. And this happens essentially because of the lower modes being present in a person. Karanam gunasangosya sadasad yoni janmashu. We get various births based on the association of the modes. But it is also mentioned sattvam rajas tama iti guna prakriti sambhava. Nibadhnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyam. The living entity is entangled in this body. Why? Through these three modes, sattvam, rajas, tama. With their combination, he is entangled. He is stuck, as they say. Because of that, his behavior pattern changes. And because his behavior pattern changes, because he is in the lower modes, he behaves in activities that are, what is the definition of mode of passion that is given by Srila Prabhupada in his translation? In the 14th chapter, yes. And is born of the contact of senses, that's the point. It is characterized by pleasure that is initially sweet, eventually bitter, but it is characterized and it is born from the contact of the senses with the sense objects. So that is why the Sthita Prajna is mentioned as Indriya and Indriyarthebhyo. Tasya prajna pratishtita. He sacrifices those. He is able to stay away from these material objects. All this we cannot do unless the spiritual master, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, they guide us. So here, these fleeting pleasures, they call it. I mentioned this a little while back, probably in the last class also. There is a Latin phrase called sic transit gloria mundi. Thus fades earthly glory. So any glory that we get in the material world has to fade, however great it is. Even our seemingly comfortable positions to perform devotional service. Now we are living in a place that where there is absolutely no distraction except that which is in our mind. There is absolutely no other distraction. Manaparam karanam amananti. What more can we ask for? We have the highest philosophy, simply wonderful philosophy, simply wonderful prasadam, simply wonderful association. Association is where we look for it and how we take the association. So it's all simply wonderful. But Srila Prabhupada says, our philosophy is the highest, but higher, greater than philosophy is the practice of philosophy. So when it comes to practice, we get stuck. And Srila Prabhupada mentions, and I've heard my spiritual master also mention this repeatedly, practice makes a man perfect. Practice makes a man perfect. So therefore, that is why if somebody has to overcome the impact of the three modes, in the 14th chapter, which is actually Jnana Yoga, what does Krishna say? Bhakti Yogena Sevate. It's clear, by performing acting as per the principles of devotional service, one can overcome the impact of the three modes. And by the activity of the three modes, we get entangled. So that's broadly what this person is, the typical conditioned soul is going through. And this conditioning by the lower modes is characterized primarily and substantially by the attraction between man and woman. Yan maithunadi grahamedi sukham hi tuchham. Grahamedi means, in one sense, is performing the sacrifice. The sacrifice of not performing any sacrifice for Krishna. Like somebody asked Prabhupada, you Vaishnavas you Hare Krishnas are so detached, you have given up everything for Krishna. So Prabhupada said, you are more detached, you have given up Krishna for everything. So that's the choice we have. It is a binary world. Those of you who know computers, it is a binary world, 1 or 0. Krishna or Maya, there is nothing else, nothing in between. It is spiritualizing or Krishnaizing our existence. How much can we Krishnaize this bhava atavi by the guidance of the spiritual master? How can we get out of it from this dense forest of delusion? To that extent is our success. And that is not possible if we don't take our spiritual life seriously. Everyone knows, everyone has to introspect. Yogyata vichara kichu nahi pai. We have to just keep searching inside. So therefore here it's mentioned about the mosquitoes. The mosquitoes keep biting us. Envious people bite us. In the previous verse, they talked about Nara Deva Dasyavaha. It talked about the dacoits, plunderers. The phrase that is used in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is Swajanākhya Dasyu. Our own people, actually plunderers and dacoits. Our own people. They are our own people actually. Deha apatya kalatra adishu atma sainya sasatswapi. We think they are our own soldiers. My own body, my children, my wife, my wealth, etc. Kalatra adishu plus relatives, etc. Atma sainya sasatsapi. These are my people. I am nija paroveti ganana lagu chetasa udara charitanam tu vasudhaiva kudumbakam. We consider that this is my person, this is another person, because of the same presence of envy. And because of the attachment, we think that this family of mine, they can actually protect me. Asatswapi, Atma Sainya, they are my army. But what we don't understand, Prabhupada translates this as fallible soldiers. Asatswapi, they may fall anytime. Imagine you have an army that is protecting you. in childhood, they used to have these army toys, but they were made of clay. So they're fallible soldiers. They could fall anytime. You pour water, they're finished. So these are fallible soldiers. Tesham pramato nidanam pashyan api na pashyati. But we still don't see it. And by the same token, here it is talking about, in this shloka, he is engaged in earning a livelihood in some profession or occupation. In these dealings, one has to meet many undesirable people, and their behavior is compared to the biting of mosquitoes. So people tolerate in the outside world so much. There are people who work in companies for 30 years, hearing abuses from their bosses, low wages, inhuman working conditions. They work in such places for 30 years. They can tolerate that. They cannot tolerate the austerities of spiritual life. That's why Srila Prabhupada reminded us that spiritual life is difficult, but material life is impossible. These people don't understand that. What these people, we were all there, been there, done that. We cannot say those karmis. We have to just see how much karmi are we currently. Sripad Shankaracharya says, Jatilo mundi lumchita kesha kashayambara bahukrita vesha. Pashyan apina pashyati muta udara nimittam bahukrita vesham. Udara nimittam. For maintaining livelihood, he may wear many dresses. There are charlatan sadhus who wear saffron also. Wearing saffron in India is no longer. That's why many people don't have respect for the sadhus. Earlier, if you wear saffron, people would get up immediately. Sadhuji or Mahatmaji or Panditji, something they'll say. But as time progresses due to the impact of Kali Yuga, just like when Vijita Ashwa was defeating Indra repeatedly in Prithu Maharaja's sacrifice, every time Indra was wearing a fake sadhu's disguise. And Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam mentions, and Srila Prabhupada mentioned the purport that is how all the charlatan sadhus were born. Bogus sadhus. Of course, bogus gurus. Prabhupada mentions in Science of Self-Realization that there is no such thing as a bogus guru. If he is bogus, he cannot be guru. These words don't go together. So this is called an oxymoron. Like cruel kindness. Cruel kindness. It's like oxymoron. Bogus guru. Cannot be like that. If you're bogus, you cannot be guru. But here it's further mentioned that even in the midst of these disturbances, one imagines that he is going to construct a grand house and live there permanently. Hum honge kamyab ek din. Complete confidence that this material, that is why ahini bhutani gachanti hai amalayam. Sheshastavaram ichanti kimacharya mataparam. Yudhishthira Maharaj tells Dharmaraja, every day, yesterday Krishna Prabhu was quoting the same shloka. We understand that everybody before us has died. People are still dying around us, but it won't happen with me, and even if it will not now. That is why the Bhagavatam says, Ayur harati vaipumsha udyanastana yannaso. Tasyarte yakshana nita uttama shloka vartaya. When we glorify the Supreme Lord repeatedly, every day, Jivanti san mukarita bhavatiya varta. Fill our life. Make it resplendent with the glorifications of the Lord. Then we will get that light to get out of this material existence. There are just a couple of points that I want to highlight from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport on the same, from the Sarartha Darshani. In this 13th chapter, basically we're talking about the forest of material existence. The whole 13th chapter is about that. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that Jada-bharatha actually puts King Rahugana on the horse of detachment. He's put him on a horse of detachment so that he can cross this Bhava-atavi. That's the way to cross this forest. To cross a forest, it is easier if you are riding a horse. The horse can clear the thickets, jump over them, etc. and get you out. So here the horse that is given for Rahugana is detachment. And the last verse of the previous chapter mentioned about crossing over the material existence. The last verse of the previous chapter. It says, Labdha smritir yatipara madvanaha. Atiparam means the ultimate end. Advanaha, on the path back home to Godhead. How? Kathana-shrutabhyam, by the two processes of hearing and chanting. By associating with exalted devotees.
The word used is asanga. Asanga susanga jata. Such a beautiful, Bhagavatam is such beautiful poetry. Tasmat naro asanga susanga jata jnanasine haiva vivrikna mohaha. So, by the sword of knowledge, one can cut through this illusion. And therefore, the 6 plunderers that we talked about yesterday, Kama, Krodha, Lopa, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, the 6 plunderers constantly plunder. And in that forest, jackals enter his house by force and plunder the inattentive merchant, just as wolves steal sheep. Bhayam dvitiya abhinivesha syat. That's the character of this material world. Fear. Bhaya. Yesterday I was mentioning a couple of devotees. There is Ibn Sana, there is an Arabic scientist and psychologist long back. He came up with a understanding, he came up with a philosophy and finding that he kept 2 sheep in cages. And in another cage he kept a wolf. But one sheep alone could see the other wolf. One sheep couldn't. He could see that in just a few days, the wolf that was watching the sheep that was watching the wolf constantly died of cardiac arrest. Just by fear, he will come, he will kill me, he will come, he will kill me, he will come, he will come, kill me. So this bhayam, this fear, constantly I will lose what I have. That is defending. Even coming into Krishna consciousness, sometimes I personally have observed with my own behavior that it is easy to give up eating, it is easy to give up sleeping. It is easy to externally at least give up mating. It is impossible to give up defending. Very, very difficult. And that is why defending depends on depending. I keep saying this point. We will stop defending when we start depending on the Guru, Sadhu, Shastra and the Supreme Lord. Here it talks about yan maithunad grahame sukham ichutam. Sukham hi dukkham. Kanduta was karayarva dukkha dukkam, sorry. Tucham, it's menial, it is worthless. So, we talk about Dhanur Dasa, Vili Dasa, disciple of Sripad Ramanujacharya, who was so enamored with his wife's beauty, was not even his wife, girlfriend, so to say. He was looking at her eyes constantly. He was ignoring Ranganatha, who was going on a palanquin nearby. So Sripad Ramanujacharya called him and told him, if I show you somebody who has got better eyes, will you give up this attachment? He agreed, and then he showed him Ranganatha's beautiful eyes, glorious lotus eyes. Nama Pankaja Nabhaya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankaja Angraye. When you look at all this spiritual beauty, transcendental beauty of the Supreme Lord, material beauty does not enamor us anymore. Nari stanabara nabhi desham drishtva magha moha vesham etan mamsava sadvikaram manasivi chindaya varam varam. Looking at the various parts of the woman's body, or vice versa, as the case may be. Drishtva magha moha vesham, because of illusion, one keeps getting attached to them. He doesn't want to stare, but he stares. Even if he doesn't stare, he meditates. So then what happens? Etan mams avasadi vikaram. It is just transformation of the flesh. We still meditate on it. We know this is flesh and it will disappear. Somebody, one senior Vaishnava, His Holiness Sundar Chaitanya Maharaj, who was known as Sundarlal Prabhu before, he told me, just imagine if you get attracted to the form of the opposite gender, all you need to think is, if we just peel off one layer of skin from that body, how will she look like? Or how will he look like? Just peel off the skin, one layer. It may be transformation of flesh, but it is just even that little thin layer of skin. That is why the 5 senses, the sense object, one of the senses is the skin. It's very, very powerful. And this skin disease Prabhupada talks about, that is characterized a lot by attraction between male and female. Topmost, making it Maithuna Agara, Prabhupada says. This is an engagement. Engagement in the opposite gender's meditation leads to engagement. How do we get out of this? pray sincerely before the Supreme Lord, apart from following the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam sincerely. By following Shravanam and Kirtanam, we can have Vishnu Smaranam. Depending on the quality of our Shravanam, Kirtanam, our Vishnu Smaranam will become stronger. I've heard this in several lectures by His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. But apart from that, we must pray before the Supreme Lord. We must pray before the Supreme Lord that mat samo nasti papatma naparati cha kaschana pariharo pilajyasmin kimbruvi purushottama yuvatinam yata yunim yunam cha yuvatav yata manobhiramate tadvan manomiramatām tvai. When I come before you, I feel ashamed. I am so sinful. I hang my head in shame. Kimbruvi purushottama. What can I say about myself? Then what does he say? Yuvatinam yatha yunim. Like a young woman is attracted to a young man and a young man is attracted to a young woman. Please, my dear Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, Sri Gauranga, Sri Ramachandra, please may I develop attachment to your lotus feet. And like Vritrasura prays, I want to conclude. Mamo uttama shloka jananusakyam samsara dukkam brahmata swakarma bihi tvan maya atmatmaja daragehesh asakta chittasya nanatha bhuyat. Mama uttama shloka jananusankyam. Please may I get the association of wonderful devotees of the Supreme Lord, because of which I can overcome this samsara, dukkham, adversity, as well as the burden of sense enjoyment, as Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj describes. He calls it the burden of sense enjoyment. He says that only 100% subordination to the instructions of the spiritual master can help one overcome this subordination to this material enjoyment. And so therefore Vritrasura prays that Tvan Maya Yayat Atmatmaja, may I overcome my attachment. Atma, Atmaja, Dara, Geha, house, wife, my body and my son. Asakta Chittasya Na Natha Bhuyat. Please may it not happen that I remain attached to all this. May I develop attachment to your lotus feet. And that is a prayer of Vritrasura. And we should pray therefore. For that, how do we constantly ensure that? Again, Vritrasura says, Aham harair tava das padaika mula dasanu dasa bhavitasmu bhuya manasmriter ashupater gunamsya grinita vakarma karotu kayaha. He prays that please may by thought, words and actions, may always remember you, always be engaged in you. Aham harair tava padaika mula, by just let your root, my root be your lotus feet. May be there, dasanu dasa, the servant of servant of servant. Bhavita asmi bhuya, please may I become of yours and your servant servant. In Mukundamala Stotra, like it is mentioned, Tadbhritya bhritya paricharaka bhritya bhritya bhrityasya bhritya iti mam smaralokanata. Or dasa dasanu dasa, may I become the servant of your servant of your servant of your servant. The extent to which we are able to do that, we will get attached to the lotus feet. The extent to which you are attached to the lotus feet, we will be able to remove attachment from matter and get attached to spirit. And that is the understanding of this bhava atavi and how to get out of it. Thank you very much. I want to request Senior Vaishnavas present to contribute something, and then we could take class some questions if there is time. Prabhuji, would you like to say something?
Hare Krishna. धन्यवाद. बहुत अच्छा प्रभु जी ने समझाया है. तो इसमें एक बिंदु है कठोर-दाṁśair maśakair upadrutaḥ, कि भौतिक संसार एक ऐसा जंगल है जिसमें बड़े कठोर जो है जो डंक हैं, जिनके ऐसे मच्छर काटते हैं. तो मच्छरों का जो है बड़ा कठोर जो है डंक होता है जो कि काटते हैं. तो ये संसार जंगल है. तो इसका मतलब ये भी है कि एक दूसरे को ही हम जो है अगर पीड़ा पहुंचाते हैं तो ये मतलब उसी प्रकार से है जैसे उत्तरा देवी कह रही हैं यत्र मृत्यु परस्परम. यहाँ सब एक दूसरे को मारने वाले हैं. तो सब एक दूसरे के प्रति ईर्ष्यालु हैं. प्रभुपाद कहते हैं मैं आपसे ईर्ष्या करता हूँ, आप मुझसे ईर्ष्या करते हैं. ये भौतिक संसार इसी प्रकार का है. तो हम चूँकि भगवान से ईर्ष्या करके यहाँ पर आए, तो अब जो है यहाँ पर सब एक दूसरे से ईर्ष्या कर रहे हैं. तो अब ये जो कृष्ण भावनामृत संघ जो प्रभुपाद ने बनाया है, ये एक प्रकार का वैकुंठ है. यहाँ पर क्या है कि एक दूसरे के प्रति ईर्ष्या हम जो है छोड़ करके और एक संघ बनाएं संगे शक्ति कलौ युगे, कि संग में शक्ति होती है। तो हम संग बनाए, ईर्ष्या जिसका भाव जो है छोड़ करके हम अगर संग बनाए तो ये वैकुंठ है। और अगर हम एक दूसरे के प्रति ईर्ष्या करते हैं तो फिर ये संग जो है टूट जाएगा, ये संग नहीं रहेगा। और प्रभुपाद ने कहा भी है कि अगर हम एक दूसरे के प्रति कुछ करेंगे तो ये जो संघ है, इस्कॉन है, तो इसका जो विखंडन है वो अगर कुछ होगा, इसमें कुछ नुकसान होगा तो अपने अंदर से ही होगा, अंदर के लोग ही करेंगे। बाहर की कोई शक्ति इस अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कृष्ण भावना संघ को क्षति नहीं पहुंचा सकती। बाहर की जो शक्तियां हैं अगर कुछ भी अनिष्ट करेंगी तो उसका उल्टा परिणाम होगा कि इसका और ज़्यादा प्रभाव फैलेगा। जो बाहर के ईर्ष्यालु लोग हैं जितनी निंदा करेंगे तो उससे क्या होगा कि जो सच्चे और ईमानदार लोग हैं उसका अध्ययन करेंगे कि भाई क्या सच्चाई क्या है, गहराई से अध्ययन करेंगे और इसमें और शामिल होंगे। तो बाहर के लोग अगर निंदा करेंगे तो इसमें कोई नुकसान नहीं। अंदर के लोग जो है आपस में ईर्ष्या करते हैं, ईर्ष्या के कारण निंदा करते हैं अगर, तो वो जो है नुकसान होगा। तो भगवान के धाम में मतलब कोई ईर्ष्या नहीं है, किसी के प्रति ईर्ष्या नहीं है, कृष्ण को केंद्र बनाया हुआ है। तो प्रभुपाद ने भी जो है एक वैकुंठ बनाया है, ये इस्कॉन अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कृष्ण भावना संघ, जिसमें कि हम लोग जो है कृष्ण को केंद्र बनाएं और एक दूसरे का सहयोग दें तो जो है ये ईर्ष्या नहीं होगी। फिर दूसरा एक और तरीका है समझने का कि भगवान के धाम में मच्छर भी नहीं है। यहाँ जो है मच्छर जो है तो भगवान के धाम में कोई मच्छर नहीं है, इसलिए वहाँ पर कोई ऑल आउट भी नहीं लगाना पड़ता है। यहाँ हमें ऑल आउट लगाना पड़ता है और ऑल आउट लगा करके हमने जो है बड़ी सफलता प्राप्त कर ली कि हम कहते हैं कि अब हम मच्छरों से मुक्त हो गए, मच्छरों की कोई हमारे बाधा नहीं है। लेकिन भौतिक प्रकृति ने एक दूसरा मच्छर पैदा कर दिया, कोरोना। ये कोरोना एक ऐसा मच्छर है कि जिसका काटना आपको पता नहीं चलता और वो जब आता भी है आपको दिखाई भी नहीं देता है। आपने मास्क भी लगाया हुआ है, उसमें 40% ही संभावना है कि आप सुरक्षित हैं, 60% तो संभावना है कि आपके अंदर प्रवेश करेगा ये, तो आपको पता ही नहीं चलेगा। अभी तक जो है कोई ऐसी विधि नहीं विकसित हुई है आज की टेक्नोलॉजी में कि जो कि पता लगाएं। अब वो अगर टेस्ट करेंगे तो टेस्ट में भी जो है 8 घंटे लग जाएंगे, 7-8 घंटे लग जाएंगे, तब कुछ पता चलेगा कि पॉजिटिव है कोरोना। तो भौतिक प्रकृति ने एक ऐसा मच्छर बना दिया, वो भी मच्छर ही तो है, मच्छर ही तो है। और जब वो काटता है तो आपको पता भी नहीं चलता, आप बिल्कुल सुरक्षित अनुभव करते हैं कि सब सुरक्षित हैं। लेकिन जब बाद में जो है उसका असर जब पड़ता है तो फिर जो है मतलब परेशानी होती है और एक से दूसरे को, दूसरे तीसरे को। तो ऐसा भी मच्छर भौतिक प्रकृति ने पैदा कर दिया। तो आज की टेक्नोलॉजी जितने प्रयास कर रही है कि भाई हमारे जो है जो भौतिक ताप हैं, आध्यात्मिक ताप, 3 ताप हैं, तो ये जो है दूर हो जाएं। तो भौतिक प्रकृति चूँकि ताप पैदा कर रही है, 3 प्रकार के कष्ट पैदा कर रही है, तो नए तरीके से वो कष्ट उत्पन्न कर रही है भौतिक प्रकृति। तो ज़्यादा अच्छा यही है कि हम वहाँ जाएं भगवान के धाम में, जहाँ ना तो कोरोना वायरस है और ना ये सब मच्छर हैं, किसी प्रकार की बाधा नहीं है, तो वहाँ पर चलें। हरे कृष्णा।
Does anyone have any questions or comments to add? Yes, Pandu Prem Prabhu.
Thank you very much for enlightening us on this aspect of this material world, which is dense forest with such thick grasses and mosquitoes constantly biting us. One quick conversation of Srila Prabhupada in 76 in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada compared these mosquitoes to Mayavadis and yogis. And interestingly, Prabhupada said, to kill mosquitoes, we don't need big guns. But there was so much of government movement in the West and also in the Indian part started to oppose Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada said, for us, they will need big guns because we are not mosquitoes. Thank you.
It's very good. So thank you very much for patiently listening, and I beg forgiveness for any comments which may have been made which did not meet your expectations or understanding. I seek your blessings that somehow or the other, till the last breath, I may be able to serve the Guru Parampara.
in Srila Prabhupada's movement. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai.
His Grace Rishi Kumar Prabhu ki jai.